Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're taking a deep dive into the life and impact of Charlie Kirk, a political activist who, from a very young age, built one of the largest and most influential conservative youth organizations in the United States.
This explainer covers the life of Charlie Kirk, whose 31 years were marked by a truly meteoric rise in political influence. His journey from a suburban teenager to a key ally of a U.S. president really charts a major shift in the American conservative movement itself.
So, that's the big question, isn't it? To answer that, we're going to explore the key events and ideas that defined his career, and really look at how he built a movement that continues to shape the political landscape today.
Here's how we'll break it all down. We're going to follow his journey chronologically, and we'll pause along the way to explore the organization he built, his powerful political alliances, and of course, the reactions to his work.
Before we trace his path from the beginning, let's actually look at the immediate aftermath of his death, because the national response really reveals the scale of his influence at just 31 years old.
I mean, think about this. His assassination drew international condemnation, a memorial service with a staggering number of people, and he was awarded the nation's highest civilian honor. These events immediately sparked intense debate across the entire political spectrum and framed him as a major figure.
So how did it all begin? Well, Kirk's political activism started long before he was a household name. He showed a really early talent for organizing and for building a media profile for himself.
From volunteering for a Senate campaign to writing for a national publication while he was still in high school, his focus was pretty clear. But here's the crucial point. At just 18 years old, after only one semester of college, he co-founded the organization that would become his life's work. His rise was incredibly fast.
The main engine for Kirk's influence was the organization he built from the ground up, Turning Point USA, or as it's often called, TPUSA. Okay, so this slide outlines the organization's mission, which started out pretty simple but grew into this massive political force. Kirk's whole vision was to create an organization that could go toe-to-toe with liberal groups on college campuses, and its growth was, well, significant.
And that success was backed by some serious money. The organization became a fundraising powerhouse, transforming from what was basically a garage startup into a multi-million-dollar operation. That gave it the resources it needed to expand its reach all across the country.
And this number right here really illustrates that reach. TPUSA established a conservative presence on literally thousands of school campuses. It created this huge network of young activists who were ready to jump into national debates on all sorts of cultural and social issues.
The organization used this really interesting multi-pronged strategy. They engaged students directly through campus tours, where confrontations were often filmed and then edited into these viral clips for social media. They also published watch lists of academics and school boards they considered too liberal, while also holding massive rallies and expanding into all these specialized branches.
Kirk's influence absolutely exploded when he aligned himself with Donald Trump. He didn't just support Trump. In many ways, he became a key architect and messenger for the MAGA movement, especially for its younger followers.
And you can see on this timeline how that relationship got deeper and deeper over time. It started with campaign support, but then it grew to include acquiring the whole Students for Trump brand, organizing supporters for major political events, and eventually receiving an official presidential appointment.
Kirk saw this shift happening, and he worked to define it. In his book, he argued that the party was fundamentally changing. So he wasn't just amplifying Trump's message, he was helping to package it and explain it for a whole new generation of populist conservatives.
Now, with this kind of rising influence, you're bound to get intense scrutiny and controversy. And Kirk was definitely known for taking polarizing positions. What's interesting is that his own views shifted pretty significantly over the course of his career.
This slide shows one of the most documented shifts in his thinking. In just 4 years, he went from publicly supporting the separation of church and state to calling it a complete fabrication. It was a move that really aligned him with the growing Christian nationalist wing of the party.
His rhetoric on race, social issues, and public health drew sharp condemnation from critics like the Southern Poverty Law Center, which described his positions as divisive and extreme. He questioned the legacy of the civil rights movement and made statements on gun rights that generated widespread outrage.
He also faced frequent criticism from media fact-checkers for promoting claims that were debunked by multiple news organizations. This was especially true for his statements concerning the 2020 election and the COVID-19 pandemic.
So how will he be remembered? Well, his legacy is about as divided as the political landscape he helped shape. To his supporters, he was a courageous truth-teller, but to his detractors, he was a dangerous provocateur.
And this slide really illustrates that contradiction perfectly. He was honored by the White House and Forbes magazine, but at the very same time, he was condemned by civil rights advocacy groups like the Southern Poverty Law Center and the Anti-Defamation League. This dual legacy is absolutely central to understanding his public image.
Polling that was conducted after his death reflected this deep division. I mean, the American public was split right down the middle, with the exact same number of people holding favorable and unfavorable views, and a really large portion just still undecided on his ultimate impact. Ultimately, Kirk's assassination leaves behind a powerful, well-funded youth organization and a mobilized base. He may be gone, but the movement he was so instrumental in building remains a formidable force in American politics. And that raises some critical questions about its future, its direction, and its leadership.